Of course, she is an actress, singer, and songwriter. She came to our attention in the series Gossip Girl, has gone on to appear on Broadway in Of Mice and Men, and in such films as The Oranges, one of my personal favorites, and The Judge. I love that movie. You get to make out with Hugh Laurie. I mean, who wouldn't love that?
Totally.
This is an audience of SAG actors, though, so I always like to start by asking, how did you get your SAG card?
Through commercials. I was doing a lot of Stearns commercials. It was a store in New York. I don't know if anyone knows what Stearns is, but it was kind of like a Belk, if you will, or like a J.C. Penney.
Now we're
and
talking the same
I would
language.
do those commercials quite often because they would have like the Mother's Day sale, and I would like the camera would pan and I'd be like wearing like a sweater, and that was on sale for whatever at the weekend of Mother's Day, and I think I did like enough of those within a short period, and it was like, now you're eligible, and that's how I did it.
And how old were you? Because you got started pretty young,
I
right?
was I want to say I was probably 12 at that point. Yeah.
Wow. Because correct me if I'm wrong, but you came to LA at 14 to pursue acting full
Yeah,
time?
maybe I was like about to be 14 around that age. I was in 8th grade. I'd been living in New York for my middle school years, my pubescent years, the most fun time of life. And yeah, then I moved out here to do like pilot season, to try it out. Didn't know what pilots were, but I did it. And then it took quite a while, and then I ended up doing a bunch of like things that didn't get picked up, or would do something that got picked up and then didn't quite go a full season, or I would do guest stars on something, and yeah, kind of went from there.
And even at that age, did you know that you wanted to do this as a career, or were you sort of having fun? I mean, it's pretty serious to pick up and move out to a new city.
Yeah, I think I had my heart set on it. I never really had in my mind that there was another option. I think I just was like, well, this is what I'm going to do. And then what kind of started happening was like, after, especially as a young adult, it would be like, I would start working, and then a period of time would come that I wasn't working, and I would go, well, should I not do this? Should I leave? Should I move? It's expensive. Like, how do I do this? And then I would get another job that would pay for me to, pay my bills and stay for a little bit longer. And I was saying, like, on the way here that I have been to this building so many times, to pay my dues, or more to the point, I would come to say, I can't afford my dues, but I have a job and I have to pay my dues to do the job. So can you extend it so I can do the job? And they would give me an extension. And I did that so many times.
You're all paid up now, right?
I'm all paid up.
They let you onto the mezzanine, so
yes,
you must be.
They let me in.
I'm so curious because I think this career, and specifically auditioning, is so hard at any age, but how did you handle that as a teenager?
I don't know. I think I would like to know now. As an adult, I feel like I have less of that resilience. Like now, like auditions feel so big, and so like I feel at times harder on myself as far as that goes. But I don't know. I think I just had a mantra of like, be your own best friend. Don't beat yourself up. You wouldn't talk, you wouldn't have negative, talk to your best friend or about your best friend. So talk like that to yourself. And I think I just sort of had in my mind, whether or not I really understood it, that it wasn't really personal, that developing myself personally was probably what was going to get me to where I want to be in life. And I think so far it has. The things that I value the most in my life are things that have built my character, which I think is true probably for most people, women especially, developing skills, learning how to speak a language, or write, or play an instrument, or do a sport, or, things that are part of your character, like being a good friend, developing wonderful friendships with people. Those things, I think, counterbalance the challenging side of this business, which is a large part of it.
I mean, I feel like it takes people decades to figure that out. If they ever do figure it out, who do you kind of credit with having that knowledge and being so grounded at such a young age?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I think I would always go back to saying, I have an older brother, but having a big brother growing up who was not so easy on me, he was not very nice. that was, I think, a big part of it, just having somebody who was grounded and kind of my rock. He was like, I wanted to be like him. I wanted to be him, growing up. And he wouldn't like deal with any bullshit. He's just like a very straightforward person. So just always having that in my life has been really good. And other than that, I really don't know. I always think about like what other paths I could take, or what other, sort of like spiraling of emotion that you can possibly have being an actor, particularly if you're out of work, whether it be for long periods or short periods. So yeah, I would give him a lot of credit. He doesn't know that though. Don't tell him.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, older siblings are there to take us down a peg when we need to be.
Yes.
I guess. Yeah. But surely he's, let you know he's impressed with you now.
I'm always very surprised when he's like, oh, I watched your show. I'm like, you did? Like, it's just so funny. He really is like, yeah, I've always looked up to him. And I think he, of all people like that I've ever met, cares so little about what people think.
Yeah. That's a gift.
So it's a good, no, don't have that.
Obviously, you did Gossip Girl for 6 seasons. Do you like doing TV? I mean, it's very different. You're doing a half-hour comedy as opposed to a full-hour drama. I know the hours are grueling, but, did you have a preference? Did you think you wanted to do movies, stage, TV?
I mean, I think I like the variety. I like to be able to try everything. At this moment in my life, I think it's mostly the subject and the content that I'm the most excited by, not necessarily the hours or whatever. Although hours of a sitcom are certainly more appealing as a working mom, but if it came to that, then I probably wouldn't work, or I would work on something that is just as grueling. I mean, I've been very interested in doing a play again, which is not forgiving, both financially or schedule wise. But as far as a job, I mean, I do think it's really lucky and amazing to be able to go to work and it doesn't feel like a job. It doesn't feel like work. Everybody that I work with is so, just supportive and wonderful, and everyone goes to work and has fun and has a laugh, and that's like a wonderful place to be.
How did the script for Single Parents come to you, and what interested you in the project, specifically the role of Angie?
It was the team. The first thing that I saw was, it was like it's JJ Philbin and Liz Merriweather, Jason Weiner, and then Taran. That was who was involved. And
he was already attached.
Yes, he was. And I was like, oh, that's the thing. That's it. Because I had read a handful of scripts so far and was like, yeah, that looks good. I don't know if I can really, I mean, like you said, 6 years. I mean, that is it's a long time to be saying like this is what I could see doing for the next 6 years. It's a long time, of your life, and a lot changes. So, and then, when I got the script, I really just noticed, like, from page one, but really ongoing, just really, truly having real laughs, and then the group itself, it just seemed like it gelled. It made sense. All the characters were so beautifully defined, and not for nothing, it was being written and run by women, who I think really do write for, parents specifically. I think like it captures it really, really beautifully. I think that I give them full credit, like that it toes the line between like there's totally the comedic world, but then I think we do. I'm occasionally touched.
Oh yeah.
It's sweet and it's heartwarming and it's wish fulfillment and a really wonderful community, and certainly single parents make up more than half of the population. I'm sure like people who have kids, a lot of the time those relationships don't work out, whether they're raising their kids alone or with somebody else. So
it's nice to see adult friendships on TV too. Like, these people really take care of each other in a sweet way.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it sort of like busts open the idea of like every show has to be about a nuclear family or a single central relationship. Children are very much, sort of the foreground of the show, and the friendships are, because of the children, are what's being made. And I think, like, as a parent too, you sort of find your people inevitably. Even if you say you won't, you do become friends with your kids' parents, or your kids' friends' parents, and you have to pick the right ones. And in this case, they're also helping each other, and it's not necessarily conventional, but it's kind of the new normal.
And this cast, I mean, you mentioned Taran Killam. You also get to work with Brad Garrett, who is like
Brad Garrett and his stand-in
legend.
right there.
Oh, stand-in's here? Oh, of course you are. Her resemblance is stunning.
I think you need to stand up so everyone understands
let's
why.
Get the full Brad.
You're definitely the first person I saw.
Now that we've embarrassed him enough.
Okay, sorry.
But I mean, it looks like so much fun. I don't know if it is as much fun as it looks. I'm sure it's work, but it's also.
Like I said, it doesn't feel like work, and what you see on screen, I mean, I hope is really just an extension of the fun we're having. Like, the chemistry or the feeling of that group dynamic where we're all friends and we're all sort of playing off of each other. We're all sort of involved in these what seem like off-camera long-running jokes. It is actually what it seems. And we all, I have felt very supported, in particular from Brad and Taran, both, veteran comedians, and they have been, so supportive, so encouraging, inspiring, and pushing me to fight for jokes that I believe in, and really just to be my best, and also very much like relaxing me, which I think is when I do my best, is when I'm just kind of relaxed.
That is the catch-22, because I think that's true of most people, but how do you make yourself relax?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that you can try to do it around people who aren't necessarily like as warm and supportive, but it would be a much more difficult task.
We actually had a question from the audience, from Tammy Albers. Is that correct? Hi. Wants to know if you were a fan of New Girl before working with Liz Merriweather and JJ on Single Parents. And you sort of touched on this, but do you find it to be a collaborative process working with them?
To answer first, yes, I was. I had actually discussed at some point with Liz about maybe doing a part on the show, but I think it might have conflicted for some reason with something that I was doing. And then my husband did a part on the show, and he had a wonderful experience, and I thought was very cute and funny on it, as I would. But he was very good. But I believe in him. I think he's gonna make it. And then, yes, I mean, that was a huge part of it too. I remember my first few meetings with Liz and JJ, and Jason is really good at that as well. But it is just such a collaborative, wonderful time on set and beyond. I get so much input in what I say and do as Angie, and down to, different things from her likes and dislikes to what she wears to the things, just jokes that I get to pitch. And they really do let us have plenty of space and time, and just kind of fly free with each scene, and they just go like have some fun takes, and so it's very best joke wins kind of situation.
There was a really good question about Angie I wanted to find. Oh, here it is. Is it from Jenelle? Is that correct? Did I butcher that name?
She doesn't even recognize her own name.
Is it?
Oh,
Danielle. Sorry.
I didn't even see you, but that's my stand-in, and she's little. She's tiny.
She wants to know something I've noticed / wondered. As the season went on, Angie has a very subtle yet distinct physicality. Is that something you've done organically as you got to know her, or was it built intentionally early on?
You could just ask me in person. I'm just kidding. Well, I will say that they have given me such wonderful opportunities to do things that I feel like only women writers and showrunners and directors and producers would really be able to allow another woman to do, which is kind of be gross.
Yeah.
Like it's not just about being the love interest or the mom or the wife or whatever it is that she's trying, or the super mom, which is kind of the amalgamation of everything, which we see so often portrayed on screen, which is sort of just one of these things that we fall into where it's like, but she's perfectly coiffed and she's on her way to work. She's so harried, but not a hair is out of place. But I think like, from like a cat costume to being a fan of heavy metal, which was my fault for bringing that up in the beginning, but and it's not true to life, but I had to somehow like end up performing it, a Slayer song called Raining Blood. But those things sort of lend themselves to like, they give me so much space to do it. And then of course, different scenarios like open up sort of the doors so that you can fly free and be weird, get weird. And they really allow it.
I noticed quite a few female directors who work on this series. Yeah. I don't know if that's, unusual for you. I don't know if primarily you've worked with male directors. I think probably most people have, because it's just been the way it's been. And I don't know if it's just specific to the show, but with so much talk lately about, recognizing female directors, are you noticing a change?
Yeah, definitely. I think that they're making a concerted effort, whether or not it's from pushback or from their own instincts. I would probably say the first thing, to have female directors come on board. And some of my favorite experiences have been working with female directors, some of my favorite projects ever. I don't know why. I mean, besides the fact that they're completely competent and should be given the opportunities, but I think that there's just like a comfort and sort of just a relatability, a feeling of like we're both here for each other, and I don't know, it's like a mutual respect.
That's great. And obviously we talked about the cast on this show, but we should talk about the actor who plays Graham, Tyler Waldis. Am I pronouncing that right?
Wladis. It's a WL, which you don't see very often.
You guys have a great relationship. It really feels like mother and son. Did that happen pretty instantaneously?
How could it not? He's actually very similar to that in real life. I mean, he's got some spunk because he's like a kid actor, so he's like got a little more savvy, I would say. But it's funny, he definitely is like such a sweet kid. I'm always like, I have the best kid. I love him so much. I really lucked out with him, and he really is a perfect kid for Angie because he is so sweet and sensitive and really filling in the blank of her as a parent and her as a person, which I think that unconsciously our children know that they need to do. Mm-hmm. They see you and you're like, how you have your own like messed up stuff, whatever it is. And in her case, she has like abandonment issues and, has had a lot of, she feels like she needs to put like a shell around her. And so he is the perfect child for her because he's filling in those spaces. And they're so smart. They're so much smarter than us adults. They know exactly what to do. And he's just his delivery is so, it's so good. And I wish I could do an impression of it. Taran does a great impression. And
of everyone in the cast?
Of everybody. Yeah. Yes, he does a great impression of literally everybody, but him too. It's just so sweet and wonderful.
And I don't mean to like oversimplify things, but you became a mother yourself fairly recently, last 3 or 4 years. Mm-hmm. Do you think that, is there some of you in Angie, do you think you would play it differently if you hadn't had a child yet?
Yeah, I think that it informs so much of my life and in particular my work because it has defined very much who I am, whether or not I like it. It's like the hardest part of life and the best part is raising a child. And it's when I went in to meet with the writers for the show, it was very much like a sit down, like, let's get to know you. Let's see how you talk, what you like, your tone, how you can bring whatever it is that you want to say through this character and what you think she would do. It talks so much about my own experience having a child and very much about the vortex of like, you hear Wheels on the Bus enough times on a road trip, and like this is real, like it's real things, that I've gone through, and that's like the funny stuff, then there's the hard stuff that we also touch on, hopefully in like enough of an effective way, but lighthearted and in a funny way as well. But playing a single mother certainly is a completely different story. I think like I can't even imagine how, I just can't even imagine.
Yeah.
She's the mother, the father, the breadwinner. She's trying to have friendships and relationships, and she's being everything to her son. And it's hard to even do one of those things with money and help and a husband, so she's kind of like a superhero, but very much open about what she feels she's doing wrong. And
It's interesting because I wanted to talk about, what we can expect next for Angie, but I hear you guys just saw the season finale, which I haven't seen yet.
Me neither. Yeah. I saw the Adam scene because we went to ADR together. We did our voiceover for the scene. We did a little marital ADR, and I had stuff and he had stuff. So we're like, let's go. And so I saw that, thought it was very funny. But and then who knows what'll happen next? It is kind of a cliffhanger.
Yeah. So wait, was it good? Will you guys tell us?
Yeah.
Okay.
Was it good?
I was, yeah.
Okay, good.
I was excited to talk about the fact that Adam is going to be playing your ex-husband on the show.
Yeah, I wouldn't say he's an ex-husband. I think he's like an ex-flame, maybe. We never made it to marriage. But though, I don't know. We haven't explored it enough. But I was on a tour bus with him. He's a musician and I was a groupie.
And he's the father of...
He's the father.
Yes, okay.
I think yes. I'm pretty sure. That'd be a twist.
That was so funny. I thought that I was going to like break some exciting news, but you guys actually saw it.
You already saw it. You already know. Secret's out.
Is this the first time you guys have worked together since The Oranges?
No, we also did a movie together called Life Partners. This was back in 2014. Probably came out no, that was 2013. It came out 2014. And that was one of the most fun experiences. And again, like this is the third time we've done something together where we're like not playing love interests or like when are we gonna play? But maybe if this show gets another season we'll be able to explore if Angie had, because she gets left, so it's not necessarily like she's breaking it off and she thinks he's handsome. I think she's stated a few times.
Was it hard to play that believably?
It was the hardest acting I've ever done.
I have a couple other questions from the audience. Oh, well, this is funny. Kayla? I didn't butcher that one. Good. Wants to know what's the most difficult character you've played in your career?
I would say Curly's wife in Of Mice and Men. That was, for many reasons, the most challenging thing I've ever done. To begin, the hours are like a real... endurance test. You do 8 shows a week and it's like, you start and you just never stop. But really it was more that the character doesn't even have a name. She's just this nameless person. And I discovered while working on it just how sort of deeply and secretively I think people feel hatred for this character and they don't really know why. And I got to read lots of sort of personal notes and letters of John Steinbeck saying, the reason why he had the character have no name and sort of her background. And it was this very subtextual attempt to illuminate the sexism inherent in everybody, even when they're aware of their own prejudices that are bubbling at the surface. And that was a challenge because every night I would go out on stage and my character is this very open person. She's very young. And really just wants the dignity of friendship and people to speak to her, to talk to her, which is a theme throughout with different characters, particularly ones that are, being mistreated. And she probably gets it the worst. She's brutally murdered by the end of it. So every scene it would become worse and worse. And although I understood that the other 10 men that I was working with were kind, wonderful people that off stage were my friends. the things that they were saying just started to actually affect me each and every night. And yeah, it was it affected me more than I had imagined it would. And it, and then by the end, I have to be killed and lay there dead, and they stand over me, my body, sort of spitting at me, saying that it was my fault. And in many instances, especially with younger audiences, they would relieve themselves by laughing. And it was like, although I think that I could unpack it each night, why that was happening personally, I think I was so emotional. And so anyway, that's why it was the hardest thing. And also just, also beautifully challenging, because it really was each and every time. Every performance could be different because the writing itself really was perfect. It was written by John Steinbeck at the time he wrote the book. He wrote it so that people who lived and worked on ranches could watch it that were illiterate, that weren't able to read. So he could spread the story. And the writing of the play is just as brilliant as the book.
How do you decompress after, doing that sometimes twice a day? Did you have, your own ritual, or did you just have to leave it behind when you go home?
I mean, I really thought like, oh, I will be able to leave this behind. I know what my intention is. And it became more and more clear over time what the intention was, and became more and more clear even that as the audience was involved in this way of making me feel so low and almost like Curly's wife, that, that this is still such a problem, and I would go home, and I remember I was very much a newlywed at the time. I think I started the play rehearsals in Chicago, where the director lived. I want to say like around maybe a week after I got married. I was like, had eloped and went to go do that. And I was like, I'm a newlywed, and this girl just is a newlywed too. Oh. And then somehow I like started being like, I'm not just a wife. Like I would go home and be like, I'm not, and I think it just like, even in that way was affecting me. So I had to sort of learn ways of breaking it down and discussing it, and calling the director and talking it out through, different ways, but really the actors being so supportive and understanding and totally in the same lane off stage was the most comforting thing, to know like this isn't real. And besides that, of course, like everything is ritual in doing theater, like everything, every wall you tap and every change you make. And they would say a line from the play over the intercom before each performance, and somehow it all had meaning. It was just a really really wonderful, probably would take with me for the rest of my life.
When you come home from days like that, are those times that you're glad to be married to an actor? Because they probably understand, unless you're married to a psychiatrist. I think those are your two best options.
I thought you were going to say psycho. I was like, wait, what?
Or that, they get
both.
It. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think that, I do think it's helpful to be able to speak to somebody who truly understands. It's a certain type of career, it's a certain type of life. And it's more than just a job. It's everything, it is very much part of who you are. It's an identity. It's not just, looking for a paycheck. It's your heart. And if it was a paycheck, then I don't think anybody here would do this job. And although, I was going to say I would do it even if there was no paycheck. But yeah, I think it's helpful for sure.
On a lighter note on Broadway, Callie R. wants to know if you could star in any Broadway musical, what would it be and why?
Oh man, I don't know. I've always been like, people ask me that a lot because we do a lot of music on the show, and just everything I ever do, people are like, can you sing on this? Because I love making music, and I consider myself at least on the side a musician, and I would not like to do a musical. I wouldn't. I mean, I can't even think of one that I would like. I mean, I saw I see Glenn Close in Sunset Boulevard, which was like amazing. I'm like, maybe I would do that. Like that would be amazing, you know. But
what about Thoroughly Modern Millie?
I don't know
I
that.
think you would kill that.
Oh, I don't know it.
Come on, actors, you know that one, right?
Okay, you guys know. You're better than I am. I don't know. I mean, there are some. I mean, like I think maybe just. I don't know if it's not that I don't love musicals. I love going to see musicals. I just feel like I wouldn't do it. But I would like to do theater again, and I would like to do comedy so that I don't have that dead on the floor thing happen again.
Was Mice and Men the last time you were on stage?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Yeah.
Was it also your first time on Broadway?
It was, yeah.
Wow, wow. That's a great one to start on.
Yeah.
And we have a question from Anna. You might have addressed this actually. Oh, no, sorry. It's what would you say was the biggest challenge when you started your career?
You know, it's funny. I think that as time goes on, like everything seems like a challenge, but like in a different way, you know? And now it's like, if I look back at like 5 years ago, I'm like, yeah, this is where I would want to be. I'd want to be right here doing this exact thing, like with you. But you know, the challenges in the beginning of my career were probably, I think, sort of compartmentalizing, knowing that like I had to, I mean, I was a kid, so it's really tough to say. I think like, you know, kind of shut off the kid part of me, and be like professional, which is good and bad. I think it has helped me in my life. I think that, you know, I mean, I feel like I'm professional. I don't know if everybody would say that, but there's that, and you know, learning how to be on a set and to work. But yeah, I mean, being a kid and trying to make that work. And then later on, certainly just going long periods without working and not knowing if I was doing anything right. And every time I would audition, I was like, was I too quiet or was I too loud? Or did I talk fast enough or slow? Or would I, like, you know, just kind of like identity, like what was my identity? And then as I went further along, you know, when I was 20 was when I got Gossip Girl and I moved to New York, and it was kind of like a whirlwind, I suppose, is how you could say it. But at the time I was like, no, but I've been working my whole life. Like it maybe all came now, but I have been working since I was a kid. Like over half my life I'd been working. So, you know, and that presented its own challenges in a very different way, you know, just sort of like existentially, like, you know, suddenly having like certain success, but is it the, you know, the work I want? So, you know, as time goes on, everything, it's like having a child, truly. It's like this stage is over and now they sleep, but now they talk back, you know, that kind of thing.
And I want to ask what's next on the show that you can reveal. But again, I feel like you guys know more than we do.
Yeah, this is it. This is it, guys. This could be it.
No, do you have a word on season 3 yet?
Or say season 2. And no, I don't. Yeah.
I'm already thinking ahead.
Yeah,
to season
I know.
3.
Thank you. Yeah. Season 3. No, I don't know. I think this is kind of it. This is like, you know, next week we'll know. We'll have this is like the kind of final push. And then, yeah, this is it.
So who do we need to write letters to? Because we need to know how this turns out.
I know. Well, you know, I don't know. Tell ABC. Yeah. I know. Tell your Twitters. That you
well, it's been so well received and it's doing well.
It
There's
has,
such a great cast.
yeah.
I wouldn't be too worried. You just never.
I mean,
know.
I'm so worried.
Yeah.
So thanks, but
no, but I want that guy to come back.
Yeah. I'd like for me and my husband both to have work. So thank you.
Well, I can't wait to see what you do next. I will be first in line when you go back to Broadway. I would love to see that. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you guys for being a great audience.
Thank you guys.